Introduction. Your thoughts shape your beliefs shape your actions shape your habits, and your habits over time shape your entire life. That's not a motivational quote. That's how it works. That's the engine that's running your results right now, whether you're thriving or stuck, clear or confused, confident or full of doubt. Everything you're doing, everything you're chasing, everything you're becoming, it all starts with the way you think. But here's the part that most people ignore. They never stop to ask what kind of thoughts they're feeding themselves. They wake up, grab their phone, and within seconds they're drowning in notifications, scrolling through other people's lives, comparing, reacting and spiraling. Before they've even gotten out of bed, their brain is full of noise, and that noise becomes their mood. That mood shapes their choices, and by noon they're wondering why they feel drained, behind, or already defeated. In this audiobook, you will learn how to take back control before the world even has a chance to touch your mood, your energy, or your direction. You'll learn how to silence the noise before it starts, how to lead your thoughts instead of reacting to them, and how to train your mind to follow your voice and achieve maximum success in your life and achieve your dreams and goals effortlessly. Chapter 1. Today I choose to be positive. Positivity is power. Negativity is poison. One builds you, the other breaks you, slowly, silently, from the inside out. And while most people think positivity is a feeling, something that arrives when life is finally good enough, the truth is this: positivity is a choice. It is a decision you make, not something you wait for. It's not about pretending everything is okay. It's about deciding who you're going to be, even when things aren't. Negativity creeps in when we don't pay attention. It grows in silence, it feeds on delay, and it thrives in the moments we forget to take the lead in our own mind. Positivity doesn't come naturally to most people. It comes from building a mindset, through habit, repetition, and most of all, intention. Choosing to be positive, especially on days when you don't feel like it, is one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself, because you're not just choosing to feel good, you're choosing to lead your thoughts instead of letting them run wild. Most people don't realize how quickly their mind turns against them in the morning. The alarm goes off, and before they even open their eyes fully, their thoughts start spinning. What they didn't do yesterday, what they're worried about today, that one conversation they're dreading, that one mistake they haven't let go of. Maybe it starts with a scroll through social media. Maybe it starts with an email or a headline. Either way, it's noise, and that noise becomes the soundtrack of the day. From the very first few minutes, their energy is being pulled, not directed. Their focus is scattered. Their emotions are already influenced by things outside of their control. That's where the spiral begins. You let the world speak before you do, and the rest of the day becomes a reaction. But here's the shift. When you wake up and say, "Today I choose to be positive," you are the one speaking first. You are the one setting the tone. You are taking responsibility for the story that plays in your head, and everything else that happens is a response to that, not the other way around. There's a reason this works. Psychologists have studied how our thoughts shape our emotions and behaviors for decades. In cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the most proven and effective tools in modern psychology, the central idea is that your thoughts create your feelings, and your feelings drive your actions. Change the thought, and you start changing everything else. And it's not just theory. There are thousands of peer-reviewed studies confirming it. Dr. Aaron Beck, the founder of CBT, built a career on showing how we can interrupt automatic negative thoughts and replace them with healthier, more realistic alternatives, and in doing so, we improve mood, reduce anxiety, and change behavior. That is what you are doing when you say, "Today I choose to be positive." You are cutting into the default thought loop and replacing it with a better one, on purpose. Now, let's get into the science behind this. According to research published by the National Science Foundation, the average person has somewhere between 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day. Around 80% of them are negative, and nearly 95% of them are repeated from the day before. That means you are not thinking new thoughts. You are reliving old ones. Most of the stress you feel is not coming from today. It's coming from yesterday, last week, or years ago. Thoughts that never got challenged, never got questioned, never got replaced. And that is exactly why daily repetition is so important. If you do not deliberately install new thoughts into your system, the old ones will keep playing on repeat. They don't stop just because you're tired of them. They stop when you override them consistently. Saying, "Today I choose to be positive," might sound simple, but simple doesn't mean small. It's a pattern interrupter. And in habit science, interrupting a pattern is often the first and most crucial step to change. Charles Duhigg, in his best-selling book The Power of Habit, explains the cue routine reward cycle that runs so much of our behavior. In the same way our physical habits follow predictable loops, so do our thoughts. If your cue in the morning is stress or dread, and your routine is mentally replaying all your problems, your emotional reward might be control or certainty, even if it makes you feel bad. That's how sneaky negativity can be. It gives you the illusion of staying on top of things while slowly draining your energy and belief. But when you insert a new cue, like speaking that one line out loud, you disrupt the loop. And that disruption gives you space. And space is where you reclaim choice. Let's also look at your brain from a neurological perspective. Your mind in the morning is in a transitional state. During the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking up, your brain is moving from theta to alpha to beta waves. It's highly absorbent, almost like a sponge. That's why your morning routine matters more than most people realize. If you wake up and immediately feed your brain with stress, fear, or distraction, you're not just starting your day wrong, you're setting the tone for your internal state for hours. That's why speaking a line like, "Today I choose to be positive," isn't just about changing your attitude, it's about changing your neurochemistry. When you speak positive intent, you trigger dopamine, serotonin, and other mood-stabilizing chemicals. It's not magic, it's biology. You are literally building a different brain through repetition. Now let's be real. Some mornings, you're not going to feel like it. You're going to wake up with pressure on your chest, or anxiety sitting in your stomach, or thoughts already racing about what's going wrong, and your brain is going to tell you this doesn't work, that it's fake, that it's stupid. That's the test. That's the moment that counts. That's when most people drop it, and that's why they stay stuck. But not you. When that resistance shows up, you speak it anyway, especially then, because you're not doing this because you feel good. You're doing it because you're building something stronger than how you feel in the moment. You're creating a habit of leadership, self-leadership, where your thoughts follow your command, not your condition. Dr. Joe Dispenza, in his book Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, explains that most people live in a loop of memorized emotional states. They wake up feeling yesterday, their body is addicted to the chemicals of stress, fear, guilt, and their brain serves up thoughts to match. The only way to break out of that loop is to create a new emotional signature, a new state, a new baseline. That's what this line gives you. It's small, but it breaks the signal, it disrupts the loop. And over time, if you stay with it, your old identity, the anxious one, the reactive one, the overwhelmed one, starts to lose its grip. That's not wishful thinking, that's neural rewiring. Let's bring it down to earth. You don't need a full meditation practice. You don't need to journal for 20 minutes. You don't need to light a candle and do yoga. All that stuff can help, but it's not required. What is required is consistency. When you wake up, sit up. Don't grab your phone. Don't scroll. Don't check your inbox. Put your feet on the ground. Say the words, "Today I choose to be positive." Let it be the first thing your brain hears. Let it be louder than the noise. Say it before the world speaks. Say it before your doubts kick in. Say it until it becomes the most natural thing in the world. Positivity is not weakness. It's not ignoring what's hard. It's not wearing rose-colored glasses. It's recognizing the stress, the pressure, the uncertainty, and still choosing your response. That is strength. That is maturity. That is mental discipline. You are not what happens to you. You are how you respond. And when your default response becomes calm, clear, forward energy, you become dangerous to everything that used to control you. So start here. Say the line out loud every day, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Train your brain to hear your voice first. Train your thoughts to follow your intention. Train your day to begin with clarity, not chaos. Say it with your chest. Say it with belief. And if belief doesn't show up, say it anyway, because repetition builds belief, and belief over time builds your identity. Today, you choose to be positive. You didn't wait for permission. You didn't wait for the world to behave. You chose, and that's how change begins. Now go prove it. Chapter 2. I am grateful for all that I have. Gratitude is not something you save for the good days. It's not something you practice when everything finally falls into place or when life feels easy. Real gratitude, the kind that transforms your mindset, is built when things are messy, uncertain, and uncomfortable. It's not about ignoring what's hard. It's about choosing to recognize what's still here, what's still working, and what's still worth appreciating despite everything else. When you say, I am grateful for all that I have, you're not pretending your problems don't exist. You're declaring that they don't own you. You're choosing to stop feeding the voice that says, it's not enough, and instead remind your mind, this is what I have, and it matters. There's a dangerous pattern that most people fall into without realizing it. It's the habit of chasing the next thing, the next job, the next opportunity, the next improvement, thinking that once they get there, they'll finally feel satisfied. But the truth is, satisfaction doesn't come from what you get. It comes from how you see. And if you're always scanning for what's missing, you'll never find what's already right in front of you. Your brain, left on autopilot, is wired to look for problems. It's a survival mechanism. It searches for threats, for gaps, for things that need fixing. And in doing that, it skips right past what's already good. Gratitude interrupts that cycle. It doesn't remove your ambition. It just keeps your ambition from turning into anxiety and burnout. There's real science behind this. Dr. Robert Emmons, one of the world's leading researchers on gratitude, has studied the mental, emotional, and physical effects of grateful thinking for over 2 decades. In one of his most cited studies, participants who kept a daily journal of things they were thankful for reported significantly higher levels of optimism, enthusiasm, determination, and energy. They slept better. They experienced fewer health complaints. They were less likely to feel lonely or depressed. This isn't positive thinking. This is proven neuroscience. When you focus on what you have, your brain starts building emotional resilience. You feel more stable, you react less, you recover faster, and that stability gives you the strength to face the very challenges that once felt overwhelming. Now let's talk about how it shows up in real life. Most people walk through their day completely unaware of how often they complain. It's not always loud. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it's subtle. It's the sigh when your coffee order takes too long. It's the frustration when the meeting runs late. It's the comparison that creeps in when you scroll through someone else's highlight reel online. These micro moments of dissatisfaction pile up, and by the end of the day, you feel drained and don't even know why. Gratitude is the antidote, not because it makes the annoyances go away, but because it changes how much they matter to you. When you say, I am grateful for all that I have, you're not just checking a box, you're telling your brain where to focus. And where focus goes, energy follows. You start noticing things differently. You begin to feel more grounded. You stop obsessing over what might go wrong and start leaning into what's already going right, even if it's small. And those small things, when noticed consistently, become the very fuel that carries you through hard days. There's a concept in psychology called cognitive reappraisal. It's the ability to mentally reframe a situation, to see it from a different perspective, and to reinterpret its meaning. People who practice gratitude regularly are naturally better at this. When something inconvenient happens, they don't spiral into frustration, they reframe it. Instead of why is this happening to me, it becomes what can I take from this, or what else is still good right now. That shift doesn't eliminate difficulty, but it puts you back in the driver's seat. Gratitude gives you perspective, and perspective is power. There's also something uniquely powerful about speaking gratitude out loud. Saying, "I am grateful for all that I have," with your voice, not just in your head, gives it weight. It creates vibration, and that vibration imprints into your nervous system more deeply than silent thought ever could. Your brain believes what it hears repeatedly, especially when it comes from your own mouth. That's why affirming gratitude each morning isn't just about feeling good. It's about wiring your brain for stability, for resilience, for grounded ambition. Some people struggle with gratitude because they think it means settling. They fear that if they focus on what they have, they'll lose their edge or stop growing. That couldn't be further from the truth. Gratitude and growth are not opposites. They are partners. Gratitude is what keeps your drive healthy. It keeps your ambition from becoming desperation. When you're grateful for what you have, you can pursue more from a place of strength, not from a place of fear or emptiness. In fact, some of the most accomplished and driven people in the world credit gratitude as their secret weapon. Oprah Winfrey, who's built one of the most influential media empires in history, said in countless interviews that keeping a gratitude journal changed the way she saw her life, and that practice was the foundation of her mental strength. Tim Ferriss, author of The 4-Hour Workweek, has talked about how listing just 3 things he's grateful for every morning completely transformed his ability to stay focused and manage stress. These are not people who are soft. These are people who perform at a high level, and they understand that gratitude is a tool, not a luxury. If you want to start using this line to its fullest potential, here's what I recommend. Every morning, right after you say it, "I am grateful for all that I have," name 3 specific things you're thankful for. Don't just think them, say them out loud. It could be your health, a friend, a lesson you learned, a mistake that shaped you, the fact that you woke up and have one more shot at getting it right. Doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that it's real to you. This takes less than a minute, but if you do this every single day, you will start noticing your mind shift in ways you never expected. And on the hard days, especially on the hard days, say the line anyway, because the point of gratitude is not to ignore the pain, it's to create enough light to walk through it without losing yourself. When things feel uncertain, gratitude anchors you. When fear shows up, gratitude calms your nervous system. When your mind starts spiraling into everything that's wrong, gratitude gently pulls it back to what's still right. That's not fluff, that's power. So let's bring it all together. Gratitude isn't about lowering your standards, it's about raising your awareness. It's not a passive practice, it's a bold one. To wake up and say, "I am grateful for all that I have," especially when you're stressed, when you're hurting, or when you're not sure what's next. That takes guts, it takes strength, and it sets the tone for how you move through your day. You stop being reactive, you stop obsessing over what's missing. You start showing up grounded, clear and calm, and people can feel that. It affects how you lead, how you speak, how you work, how you live. And the best part? Gratitude is free. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to wait for it. You don't have to deserve it. You just have to choose it. So tomorrow morning, and every morning after that, wake up, take a breath, and say the line, "I am grateful for all that I have." Let it sink in. Let it interrupt the fear. Let it change the way you see everything. Because gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's a foundation. Build on it every single day. Chapter 3. I am capable of achieving great things. Every single thing you've ever done started with one quiet decision. The decision to try, to take a step, to move forward, even when you weren't sure. That's the seed of achievement. Not talent, not luck, not perfect timing, but belief. And belief doesn't come naturally for everyone. In fact, most people spend their lives doubting themselves more than anyone else ever could. They hold back, shrink down, second-guess their abilities, and talk themselves out of opportunities before they even begin. That's why this line matters. That's why this one sentence can change everything. I am capable of achieving great things. Not maybe. Not if things work out. Not if people support me. I am capable, right now, as I am. Let's be real about something. Self-doubt is one of the most common and corrosive forces in people's lives. It creeps in early, sometimes in childhood, sometimes from a single failure that stuck too hard, sometimes from years of being compared, criticized, or overlooked. It's subtle at first. You start avoiding risks. You downplay your strengths. You put other people's opinions above your own. You tell yourself it's not the right time, or you're not ready, or you don't have what it takes. Before you know it, you've built a life inside of limitations that were never real to begin with. They just got repeated enough that you believed them. That's why this daily line is not just positive talk, it's mental repair. When you say, "I am capable of achieving great things," you're doing more than boosting confidence. You're restoring a truth that life may have beaten down. You're pushing back against years of noise, fear, and false stories. You're putting your mind on notice that the ceiling is not fixed. And the truth is, the most successful people in the world are not the ones who were born with the most. They're the ones who believed, often stubbornly, in their ability to grow, to figure it out, to get better, to keep going. Psychologist Albert Bandura called this self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to succeed in specific situations. In decades of research, he found that people with high self-efficacy set higher goals, put in more effort, persisted longer in the face of difficulty, and recovered more quickly from setbacks. In other words, belief fuels behavior. You don't act confidently and then become capable. You believe in your capability, and that fuels the actions that prove it. Let's break that down. Belief leads to effort. Effort leads to progress. Progress builds competence, and competence reinforces belief. That's the cycle. That's how people go from stuck to unstoppable. But it starts with belief. Without it, you won't even take the shot. Without it, you'll talk yourself out of your own growth. And the worst part, the belief that you're not capable, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't try, so you don't grow. You don't grow, so you stay stuck. That's why you have to speak this line out loud every day. Not because it makes everything easier, but because it makes you stronger than your excuses. When you start saying, "I am capable of achieving great things," something inside you shifts. You stop thinking like a victim and start thinking like a builder. You stop wondering what might go wrong and start asking what you can learn. You stop handing your power to the past and start investing it in your future. And you stop waiting for permission, because belief is permission. Once you believe in yourself deeply and unapologetically, you no longer wait for someone to open the door. You start building your own. And don't mistake this for arrogance. This is not about pretending you're better than anyone else. This is about knowing you have something inside you that's worth developing. It's about acknowledging that potential is not a myth, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows with effort, with repetition, with strain. But none of that starts without belief. And belief is a decision. It's not a mood. You don't wait for it. You choose it. Let's talk about real-world proof. Look at almost any biography of someone who did something exceptional, and you'll find a moment not of certainty, but of decision. They didn't always know how things would work out. They didn't always feel ready, but they moved anyway. They showed up. They took the first step, and the second, and the third. That's how belief builds, not in one big moment, but in the decision to keep going when things are unclear. Angela Duckworth, in her book Grit, studied thousands of high achievers and found that the #1 predictor of success wasn't intelligence, income, or connections. It was perseverance powered by belief. The belief that effort matters, that you are not limited to what you were born with, that growth is possible, even in failure. So how do you live this line out in practice? First, say it clearly, confidently, out loud, every morning. "I am capable of achieving great things." Let your mind hear it from your own mouth. Then act on it. That's what makes the belief real. You don't have to do something massive. Just do something honest. Apply for the thing you've been avoiding. Speak up when you'd usually stay silent. Write the first paragraph. Make the call. Take the step. Action proves belief. And the more you act, the more you believe. because you're building evidence, you're stacking proof that your old story was wrong. Here's a tool that helps, what I call the prove it stack. Every time you do something that stretches you, anything that proves you're growing, write it down. Doesn't matter how small. If you had a hard conversation, wrote a page, got back up after failure, took a risk, log it, keep a running list. This is your proof. And on the days when your mind goes dark and tells you you're not ready, you pull out that list and read it, because you have been doing hard things. You have been rising. You just need to remember that list is your record of belief in motion. And when self-doubt whispers, which it will, don't try to eliminate it, overpower it. Doubt will never go away completely. But you don't have to obey it. You acknowledge it, then move anyway. That's what courage is. Moving with the doubt, not without it. When you say, I am capable of achieving great things, you're not saying you won't be afraid. You're saying you won't let fear win. So what's the real reason this line is so powerful? Because it breaks the agreement you've made with smallness. Every time you settle, every time you hesitate, every time you say maybe later, you're making an agreement that you're not ready, not worthy, not built for more. This line, spoken daily, breaks that agreement. It writes a new one. It rewrites your mental contract. You stop identifying with your limits, and you start identifying with your potential. And once that shift happens, everything changes. You see problems as puzzles. You see setbacks as setups. You see effort as a privilege. And most of all, you see yourself clearly, fully, honestly, as someone who is built for something more than just survival. You are capable of more than you've been told, of more than you've allowed, of more than you think right now. But you'll never know how far you can go until you start believing that you can move forward. So say the line. Say it when you're tired. Say it when your past tries to remind you who you used to be. Say it when you're stepping into something new and the fear starts rising. Say it until your voice gets louder than your doubt. I am capable of achieving great things. Say it out loud. Say it every morning. Let it become the compass that leads your effort, the anchor that keeps you steady, and the battle cry that drowns out the noise of every reason you used to give yourself for staying small. Because greatness isn't given, it's chosen, and you just chose it. Now prove it. Chapter 4. I embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. Most people run from challenges. They flinch at the first sign of discomfort, avoid what's unfamiliar, and shrink back when life pushes too hard. Not because they're weak, but because they were never taught how to think differently about struggle. From an early age, we're trained to fear failure, to chase ease, and to measure our worth by how smooth things feel. The second something becomes difficult, the story begins. Maybe I'm not good at this. Maybe this isn't meant for me. Maybe I should stop. That story gets repeated, and eventually it becomes a mindset. But here's the truth that breaks that mindset. Every challenge is not an interruption of your path. It is your path. And if you can train your brain to see adversity not as a threat, but as a training ground, you become unstoppable. When you say, I embrace challenges as opportunities for growth, you are not denying that life can be hard. You are choosing to turn that difficulty into direction. You are stepping into the fire on purpose because you understand that what burns away is weakness, fear, ego, and what remains is stronger, sharper, more durable. Growth does not happen in the comfort zone. You already know that. But knowing it is not enough. You have to live it. And to live it, you must choose it daily, repeatedly, especially when it's inconvenient. Let's look at how this works in the brain. Neuroscience tells us that when we face new and difficult tasks, our brain forms new synaptic connections. It literally grows. This is called neuroplasticity. The more we challenge ourselves, the more flexible and resilient the brain becomes, but only if we stay in the discomfort long enough. Avoiding the challenge cuts off the process. Enduring it activates it. That's why embracing challenge isn't just mental toughness, it's biological evolution. You're not just getting better mentally, your brain is physically adapting to higher levels of performance. Psychologist Carol Dweck, in her groundbreaking research on mindset, discovered that people who believe their abilities can grow with effort, what she calls a growth mindset, are far more likely to overcome setbacks, stay motivated, and reach higher levels of achievement. On the flip side, people with a fixed mindset, who believe talent is static and struggle is failure, often give up early, avoid risk, and stop trying the moment things get hard. One belief keeps you moving, the other stops you cold. So when you say, "I embrace challenges as opportunities for growth," you are programming yourself into the growth category, no matter what the day brings. And let's be honest, the people who grow the most in life are rarely the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who walked through pain, rejection, uncertainty, and doubt, and came out clearer and stronger. They're the ones who learned not to fear the hard seasons, but to meet them with curiosity and grit. You know these people when you meet them. They're steady under pressure, not because they're fearless, but because they've been through things and let those things shape them instead of break them. Every challenge you face gives you one of two gifts. Either you succeed and gain results, or you struggle and gain wisdom. Either way, you win, if you're willing to stay in the fight. Most people quit halfway. They hit resistance and they stop. But the magic is in the second half, the part you only reach if you press through the discomfort. That's where confidence is built. That's where skill compounds. That's where you stop needing external validation, because you've seen for yourself what you're capable of. Let's talk about language for a moment. How you describe a challenge matters. Words like problem, failure, mistake, and stress all carry emotional weight. But what if you stopped labeling things as problems and started calling them training? What if you stopped thinking, "This is happening to me," and started thinking, "This is preparing me"? That one mental shift from threat to training is what separates reactive people from resilient ones. It's what turns breakdowns into breakthroughs. Because when you name something as growth, your brain stops resisting it. It starts working with it. I call this the GROW frame. Growth requires obstacles willingly. If you want to grow, not just talk about it, not just wish for it, but actually evolve, you must face obstacles willingly. You can't wait for the perfect moment. You can't keep wishing it were easier. You have to choose the challenge, lean into it, ask better questions, stop saying, "Why me?" and start saying, "What is this here to teach me?" That one shift in framing can take a painful experience and turn it into a defining moment. This applies to every area of your life: your work, your health, your relationships, your self-discipline. Every time something stretches you, you're being offered a mirror. It shows you where you're still fragile. It shows you where you're still reactive, avoidant, unsure. But that mirror is not there to shame you. It's there to shape you. When you avoid the mirror, you stay blind to your own potential. When you face it, even if what you see is uncomfortable, you begin to grow on purpose. Now, let's get practical. How do you make this line, "I embrace challenges as opportunities for growth," more than just a sentence? First, speak it every morning, not just when things are going well, especially when they're not. On the mornings you feel overwhelmed, behind, or uncertain, say it louder, say it like it's armor. Second, write it down. When you hit a challenge during the day, pause and ask yourself, "Where's the opportunity here? What's this teaching me?" Journal that response, even if it's rough, even if it's messy, because that reflection builds a habit of seeing differently. And third, act on it. Do one thing every single day that challenges you, something small, something real. Make the call, have the conversation, try the skill, push the rep. Don't overthink it, just do it, because embracing challenge isn't about becoming fearless, it's about taking action anyway. And here's the deeper truth. The people who grow the fastest in life are not the ones who avoid pain, they're the ones who build a relationship with it. They stop seeing struggle as punishment and start seeing it as feedback. They let life stretch them, knowing that every stretch is building new strength. They know that the sharp edges are not there to cut them down, but to carve them into someone better. So say the line, say it every day. I embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. Say it until you believe it. Say it until your first reaction to resistance is not panic, but curiosity. Say it until people start noticing your calm under pressure. Say it until challenge no longer makes you shrink but rise. Because at the end of the day, growth is not found in the easy seasons. It's earned in the hard ones. And if you can walk through the hard with your head up, your heart open, and your mindset locked on progress, there's not a single thing life can throw at you that you won't find a way through. So stop waiting for the challenge to pass. Step into it, work with it, learn from it, let it shape you, because you're not just surviving difficulty anymore, you're using it to level up. That's what growth-minded people do. And now, that's what you do. Every single day. Let's go. Chapter 5. I take action toward my goals every day. There is no success without motion, no progress without movement, no dream that becomes reality without consistent, deliberate action. You can have the perfect plan. You can read every book, watch every motivational video, listen to every podcast. You can write your goals down in a journal 1,000 times, but none of it means anything if you're not doing the work. That's the truth most people avoid. They want the life but not the steps. They want the result but not the repetition. And that's why this one line, spoken every morning with intention, is so important. I take action toward my goals every day, not once in a while, not when it's convenient, not when motivation shows up, every single day. Because action doesn't just create progress, it creates identity. Every time you follow through, even in a small way, you're reinforcing who you are. You're sending a signal to your brain that says, this is what we do now. We move, we don't wait. And over time, those daily actions, no matter how small, stack into something massive. That's how confidence is built, not by talking about doing, but by doing. Confidence is not a feeling that shows up before you act. It's a consequence of acting again and again until your mind knows you can trust yourself. Most people stay stuck, not because they don't have a goal, but because they haven't trained the muscle of daily execution. They get inspired, then overwhelmed. They write the vision, then overthink the next step. They tell themselves they'll begin when things slow down, or when I feel more ready, but that moment never comes. There will always be something in the way: the job, the kids, the fatigue, the fear, the perfectionism, and so they delay, they hesitate, and eventually they forget what it felt like to be excited about building something of their own. That's why action must become a habit, not an event. It must be non-negotiable. You don't have to change your entire life in one move, but you do have to make moves daily, deliberately, even if they're small, especially if they're small. James Clear, in his best-selling book Atomic Habits, wrote, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, and daily action is a system. It is the structure you build underneath the weight of your goals, so they don't collapse under their own size." Let's break something else down. Most people wait for motivation, but motivation is a mood, and moods are unreliable. Some days you'll feel fired up, other days you'll feel flat. Some mornings you'll be ready to work. Other mornings your mind will make 100 excuses. If you let motivation decide, you will move inconsistently, and inconsistency kills momentum. The truth is, action leads to motivation, not the other way around. You don't act because you feel ready. You feel ready because you acted. That's why the most disciplined people in the world aren't waiting to feel inspired. They've built systems that make action automatic. So how do you make this practical? It starts with clarity. You need to know exactly what your goals are, not vague ideas, but defined targets. You don't say, "I want to be healthier." You say, "I will work out 30 minutes a day and drink a gallon of water." You don't say, "I want to be successful." You say, "I will write 2 pages of my book today," or "I will make 3 outreach calls before lunch." Clarity eliminates hesitation. Once you know what action looks like, you stop thinking and start doing. Next, simplify the process. When your brain is tired, it will always choose the path of least resistance. That's why I teach what I call the minimum effective task, your MET. This is the smallest action you can take today that still moves the needle. If you're overwhelmed by a big goal, ask yourself, what's my MET? Maybe it's one email, one workout, one paragraph, one post. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to keep the engine running, because once you start moving, momentum takes over. Your brain loves completion. It builds internal reward loops, so even a tiny win rewires you to want more of that feeling. There's also something powerful in tracking your actions. Whether it's a simple checklist or a digital habit tracker, recording your movement creates a loop of accountability. You can't improve what you don't measure, and you can't trust effort that lives only in your head. When you track your actions, you give yourself evidence. On the days when your mind says you're falling behind, you have proof that you're not. You're showing up, you're moving forward, and that's what matters most. Let's talk about resistance. Resistance is that internal wall that shows up right before you begin. It tells you it's not the right time, that you don't know enough yet, that no one will care, that it's